Cyrix says, seems like working for you seems very restricted social media wise. Well, believe it or not, in the same way that working for, a bread manufacturer would be pretty restrictive in terms of like, if you were to manufacture and sell bread on the side, I'm sorry, but that is just the way that employment contracts work. Like you can't be bringing people in, and like if you hire a kitchen team, and basically you find out that all of them are moonlighting as their own restaurant using the recipes that you've developed with them. It's like bad manners at the very best. So I'm sorry, that's just like kind of the way that it works when you go into a workplace that has a lot of proprietary knowledge that gives you a significant advantage in a particular industry. Like it's one of the
And not just
reasons.
proprietary knowledge either. It gives you an audience.
It gives you both in the case of Linus Media Group. So it's one of those things where I believe we actually have a fairly open approach to it. We put people's social media handles in our video credits, for example. We don't try to hide even our behind the scenes people who, could be at risk of being poached by other social media outfits. I mean, Linus Media Group people know what they're doing. They are very, very good at the game that we all play. And so I like to think that we actually allow a lot of exposure for our people. We just have to also make sure that it's within reason. So I think allowing people to have their own personal support things where they can create other content through Floatplane is a pretty good compromise. A lot of places wouldn't allow anything like that at all. So, sorry, but it's like, what am I supposed to, what am I supposed to say? I remember having a conversation with someone recently where I was like, hey, look, I'm sorry that I'm having to talk to you about this, but you got to understand, X, Y, and Z. And they're like, no, 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 totally. I get it. Like, you made me. And I'm like, well, no, because you are awesome. And that's why people like you. And that's why they want to engage with you. But, also, we've thrown some fuel on that fire, I like to think. And so between the exposure and the proprietary knowledge, I do think that we give people a very significant leg up in terms of building their own social audience. And we just have to watch out for our own interests, not just for me personally, but for everyone. Like it would be a huge problem for the people who really do want to make Linus Tech Tips and Linus Media Group successful if people were just coming in, using us as a stepping stone, and then booting out as soon as we have invested a ton of resources into training them up. I mean, you look at, for example, the exodus from Tesla to Rivian, and how Tesla is now successfully suing Rivian for hiring, what was it, something like 170, 180 of their former employees?
I thought it might have even been more than that. One sec.
And
I'll look it up. Keep going.
it's one of those things that like you can't prove necessarily that those employees stole trade secrets in a lot of cases, but there is no doubt whatsoever that a very conscious effort was made to poach a significant number of employees from a particular company for some reason. And could that reason be that they're trying to build a competing product and it would be a lot easier to just hire people that already did it for their primary competitor? Oh, probably. So it's a very complicated thing, and it's something that we are trying over time to be more and more lax about. I mean, hey, Luke, do you remember the conversations we had back when you first wanted to start Twitch streaming?
Yeah.
That's all you got to say, hey?
And like, not even that I do anymore, but I've also gained a little bit more perspective now. And the fact that I've been allowed to Twitch stream as much as I want, I think kind of surprising. Yeah, I don't know. And the fact that Linus Media Group employees have YouTube and Twitch channels that they like work on actively on the side, with what you were saying earlier, where like if you were considering a bakery, if you were allowed to have like a pop-up shop, what are they called? Meal carts?
Yeah.
No.
Food truck.
Food truck. If you're allowed to like food truck on the weekend and you worked at a bakery and your food truck sold baked goods, that would probably be pretty weird.
So
So like yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool,
basically,
but it shouldn't be taken quite so lightly.
and you got to understand, guys, too, that there's other factors at play. Like, for example, up until very recently, every single person working on Linus Tech Tips videos, so camera operators, editors, and writers, had access to the main Linus Tech Tips handle. So that opens itself up, if we allow people to have their own channels, to all kinds of abuse. And we've had to have some very difficult conversations with people where we're like, hey, did this really make sense on main? Or is this pretty much down to personal promotion? We've got to have a very, very, fine line that we walk here where we're all working towards the same goal when it comes to what we're doing on work time, but without being too restrictive about what people can do on their own time. So Luke battling it out with me on Twitch streaming, where ultimately I made the call. I was like, look, we're never going to get into, Twitch streaming at scale. So forget it. You go do your own thing. I want no part of it. I want to make no investment into your Twitch channel, but I also expect nothing back from it. Do your thing. But
do you remember the terms? Do you remember the original terms?
I don't remember the original terms. Was there, because I remember being a little annoyed at one point because you were so often promoting your Twitch stream directly after WAN show, like on WAN show. And I'm like, Luke, the optics. And then I think we talked about it. And then I think I said, yeah, you know what? I'm okay with it. But I think you were like, yeah.
So I thought that was the goal because originally we did after parties. I remember this confusion. Originally we did after parties. Then we stopped doing after parties. And shortly after we stopped doing after parties, you told people to go watch my stream as the after party. So I started calling my streams the after parties and kept promoting them. And then you were like, what the heck, bro? And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But I didn't line that up. The original terms, though, was that I couldn't monetize my stream until I had been streaming for a year. And I remember just being like, I don't understand.
I don't remember why I said that. Maybe it was to find out if this is right. No, I do remember why. I remember why. It was because your argument to me was that this wasn't about the money. It was just something you were really passionate about and wanted to use to engage with the community. And I was like, okay, prove it. Stream for a year for nothing. And if you actually do that, then I will believe you and go for it. And I don't think you waited the whole year anyway.
I think I did.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Either way, one of the other problems, guys, is that we can't be seen to show favoritism. So if everyone has their own little side gigs, whether they're Twitch streaming, which we now formally allow, anyone at Linus Media Group can have a Twitch channel and Twitch stream because I've made that decision years ago that we are not a Twitch streaming operation. We are laser focused on YouTube and other social media. Anyone can have a float plane, which conveniently is a platform that our sister company built. So I see it as not really a conflict of interest. We have spoken with some people about, even if they have a large social media following, doing brand deals and using us as their agency. So we would take an agency fee because, again, it's down to, you're awesome, but we also do like to think that even way more than a normal agency, we have probably increased your reach and probably have something to do with why someone is reaching out to you in the first place. But, oh shoot, where was I going with that? So we blah, 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 blah. We do all these things. Right, but we can't be seen to, so because everyone's doing these things, we've got to be really careful that we're not showing favoritism because this affects people's livelihoods. Like if Luke has, 200 followers on Twitch who subscribe to him and pay him $5 a freaking month, that's $500 a month, okay? $500 a month is $6,000 a year, which is the difference between, in many cases, having a car and not having a car. You know what I mean? This is very lifestyle changing money for people. And so let's say I'm more of a behind the scenes person, right? I mostly work behind the camera, or I'm an editor, or I work in the warehouse or whatever else. I'm looking at it going, well, this is totally unfair because not only is Luke in this position where he has a job that maybe I'd like better or whatever else, because you never know what people's mindset is. Not only does he have this job that I like better, but on top of him having this better job that my perception is he gets paid more, he also gets this side gig that for whatever reason, the company is calling out all the time that puts extra money directly in his pocket. I'm so unhappy right now. So you create this drama and this tension. And that's one of the reasons that a lot of companies just don't allow it. This is a really good comment that was posted in the YouTube chat about how WWE basically said, look, no OnlyFans, no Patreons, no Twitch, because technically the wrestlers for WWE Entertainment or whatever the company is called are employees, and therefore they are actually bound to this contract that is an extremely onerous non-compete. And personally, I disagree with WWE's move. I absolutely...
Yeah, that doesn't seem smart to me.
I really looked at the way that a lot of those athletes, and you can call them athletes, you can call them entertainers, they are absolutely both. I looked at the way they were engaging. It seemed so organic and so constructive.
Dude, sorry to cut you off here. If they just made like a Twitch team, I don't remember what it's called. I think they're called teams, but where you have like a team page on a Twitch and it shows all your things, and they integrated WWE branding into it and stuff, and then just let them Twitch stream, and like maybe they make all the revenue or whatever, but there's WWE branding. But
they should do bonuses based on it, I think, if they are doing it on their own time.
And maybe they have to call out upcoming events and do like some minor advertising that way. That would be huge for them, massive. And I want to jump back to something you were previously talking about with like the one employee who feels disenfranchised compared to another employee due to various exposures or whatever. I think that's a bit of a hard thing to keep in perspective when you are the employee that has the advantage, and maybe not something that you'd think of.
Yeah.
So I can understand why someone will just get excited and want to do something and then feel upset when they're not allowed. Because I've been there and I've been the douchey one. I think that's an okay word to say. Where I'm like, I just want to do it. I don't understand. But then you have to consider that other angle. And one way to maybe compare it and maybe make it make a little bit more sense is, as far as I know, most restaurants work this way, where like the waiters are tipped, but they like tip jar it and it's shared with back of house.
Yes. So that is a really solid way to handle it, but that also feels really unfair to other people. Yeah. And it gets messy. By the way, point of clarification, sorry. The reason WWE has so much control over their performers is because they're independent contractors. So they can basically just dismiss them for no reason whatsoever. Sorry, I got that detail wrong. I was thinking about it, like, I was trying to remember why it is that they're basically able to exercise this like iron fist over their employees, and I thought it was down to their employee contract, but actually it's down to their contract as like an independent contractor. So someone comes in and says non-compete clauses are not enforceable. So it really depends. They are typically considered to be not enforceable once someone's employment has been terminated, but there are absolutely agreements that you can make that limit what people are and are not allowed to do while they're employed by your company. And you got to remember too that, Justin, that kind of attitude is exactly the kind of attitude that makes a person just unemployable, period. Because at the end of the day, unless you're working for some monster mega corporation, an employee agreement and employee-employer agreement is a relationship. Like Luke and I have had battles over the years.
Yeah.
But what we've both learned from them. We've both some of us have learned a lot.
I've learned a lot. I'm the one who's learned a lot. Okay,
I've learned a lot too. We've both learned a lot. We've developed a lot. I think that we're both better people for treating our relationship as so complicated. What a complicated relationship. At times, Luke and I have been friends, colleagues who really do work like side by side on a more peer-like level, employee, boss, landlord, and tenant. And this is all consecutively. So like, Luke and I'll have a great day working at the office, right? And we kicked butt and made some great videos. And then I'll go home and I'll be like, oh no, we have to talk about like Luke's lease right now. And so now we're in like landlord tenant mode, and Luke's like talking about how the place feels like a dungeon and it shouldn't have to be so expensive. And because he's on site where the office is, he's basically like 24/7 security. And I'm sitting here going, Luke, you're already paying a fraction of what the market rate is. It's not like I don't have to pay the mortgage on this house. What do you want from me? If you don't feel like you make enough money, then just come out and say it. And if you do feel like you make enough money, then just pay your rent properly.
To be fair, at one point in time, that was described as like almost a part of my compensation package. So that did work.
By that time, you had negotiated it down to so little money that it had to be.
Yeah.
By the way, was that the bird's wing down in front of your camera?
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing. Okay, I told you before the show, I turned off a bunch of the lights, and you can hear him now. I turned off a bunch of the lights, and that's usually what I do when I take him to bed. And It's very close to his bedtime now. So all the lights are off, except for these two studio ones, and he's like super confused. And budgies have very, very, very bad low light vision.
Right.
Nice!
Stuck the landing?
So yeah, very successful landing. So he's like super confused and trying to stay like in front of the lights, but it's also pretty new, so we don't fully have that trust level yet. So he's like closer to me than he's ever used to hanging out. And then he landed on top of the camera and was like standing at the front of the lens shroud, just staring. It's been an interesting night of bird time.
So Danny Dog says, I disagree. I'm employable, but I don't believe they're enforceable. Why not just do what you want? Remember, corporations are not your friends. I already said that if it's a mega corporation where there's no personal relationship, you go ahead and do whatever you want. But if what you're trying to do is have an enjoyable, work experience, I can tell you right now that there's kind of two ways to approach me. There's the by the book way, and you can be 100% guaranteed, absolute sure that I'm going to come right back you by the book. And then there's the treating me like a human being.
Not advised.
Sorry, what's that, Luke?
I was just trying to say not advised.
Yeah, coming at me by the book, not a good plan. Come at me as a human being and expect to be treated like a human being. Come at me as some kind of like machine who is an expert on Canadian and BC employment law, then expect to get that and absolutely nothing else. So it all depends. And you know what? I'm not going to say that every employer is like me. In fact, I don't think they are. But my experience, both as an employee and as an employer, has been that if you build that personal relationship with people, you all have a way, way better time. So we should...
If you're certain that the person that you're dealing with is like a good person, playing ball is usually a better result for both of you.
Yep.
That's kind of... Yeah.
Jonathan says, your argument is literally abuse is now normalized. Deal with it. Lol. No, it's really not. At all. I mean, if our company was abusing people and normalizing it, I think our retention probably wouldn't be what it is. So I will say that much, and then I think that's pretty much the end of it. Every situation is different. I'm not saying this will work in every situation, but there is a relationship and a human element to pretty much everything. And if you don't understand that, and for whatever reason you're stuck in a dead-end job, you might want to take a long, hard look in the mirror and figure out if maybe the problem isn't entirely someone else. Maybe not entirely. And some people are just jerks. Some people will power trip on you, even though they make like $2.22 an hour more than you, but they just like get to boss you around. They have a bad life and they take it out on you. I'm not saying those people don't exist. I'm just saying that they're not everyone, and it might be worth kind of thinking about an alternative perspective.
That's why I said try to assess the person you're dealing with.
Yep.
Yeah.